Good day, everyone, and welcome to this, our second APAC Marketing Community Call. I'm Paul Cunningham, Chief Marketing Officer, and I'll be hosting today's event. As you'll have noticed, we are using our new Venue virtual events platform to run the event today, and we've chosen to do that for two reasons. Firstly, we think it's a great way to do communications like this and to share information with the group. But secondly, we want to use the opportunity to demonstrate some of the features and tricks that Venue can offer when you're thinking about planning your own virtual events in future. We've got a full agenda today, so let's take a look at it. We're going to start with a welcome from me, of course, and introducing the topics we're going to be addressing. And then Runa McLeod will be joining us to talk through the new Empower Digital Marketing Training Initiative that launches today. The bulk of the session today is going to be looking at Venue itself, both the platform and the process by which you can engage with us on working and planning your virtual events. We'll also be joined by Rochelle from New Zealand, who will talk to us a little bit about how she delivered the Westcon Comstore Imagine event just a few weeks ago, which we see as being a great example of planning and execution around a virtual event of this type. We'll then have our very first APAC Market Star Recognition Award, which I'll present, and we'll conclude with some discussions around hot topics for future calls and look to you to give us some guidance about the things that you would like to see discussed in future as well. We are listening to you. As you know, after the last call, we ran a survey where we set out some of the initiatives that we thought would be really important to us over the next year. And what you fed back to us is now being evidence of the agenda today. So in today's call, we're going to be looking at digital marketing training development with Empower. We're going to be taking a look at virtual events with Venue, and we'll return to address some of those other issues in future calls. But we will continue to survey with you. We'll take your feedback in, and we really want you to tell us how you'd like to see those topics addressed in future community calls. We're going to start with a look at the Empower Digital Marketing Training Program. And you'll hear from me first, or at least a version of me, embedded in the Empower Training Program tool, about how we link Empower to our company strategy. Hi, I'm Paul Cunningham, Chief Marketing Officer of Westcon Comstore, and welcome to our Empower Digital Marketing Training Program. This is a key element in our company-wide strategy of Digital First. Digital First means, as a company, we will always prioritize digital thinking and technology to drive better outcomes for our customers, our vendor partners, and for you, our people. So what does Digital First as a strategy mean for us in the marketing team? The fact that you're in this program today is evidence that the way the world in general, and our market in particular, learns, thinks, acts, and shares is increasingly digital. To marketing as a discipline, it helps us move faster, reach further, and measure our impact more than we ever could before. It also has additional strategic benefits when we relate it to other elements of the company strategy. For example, we know that our customers are also acting in the same way and engaging digitally in the way that they search for, procure, and use technologies. Our data-driven strategy increasingly depends on the use of digital technologies. Essentially, you can't do digital without data, and vice versa. It both creates useful data as well as consuming it. So there's a strong interdependency with that element of the strategy. And finally, our vendors want us to go further and faster than we ever have before in terms of developing their position in the channel and in the marketplace. At the same time, we have to recognize that we can't digitize or automate absolutely everything that we do as part of the marketing process. And the need for strategic thinking and consistent planning remains as strong as ever. The Empower program is designed to help you achieve both things: combining technology and process to get the results that you need. So enjoy the experience, share your insights with us, and let's continue working together to improve marketing at Westcon Comstore. Thank you. Great. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. I know I did. As a child, I always wanted to be a comic book character, but that wasn't quite what I had in mind. But kudos to Runa and the studio team, who've done a great job in putting together the Empower program. With that, we're going to take a closer look at Empower as a program. And I'm very pleased to introduce Runa McLeod, who's going to talk us through the Empower program, which launches today, and how you can engage with it. Runa.
Thanks, Paul. Hello, everybody. Great to be here, excited to be here presenting on our new Venue platform, and equally excited to be talking about Empower. And as Paul mentioned, we are launching the program today. As you just heard in the video, Empower is an extremely important initiative for us and very closely aligned to our strategy. It's designed to help shape our skills and help us take a more digital-first, data-driven approach to marketing. And of course, people are at the heart of our strategy. And I think the Empower program itself is a great example of how we are trying to invest in our people and specifically in you, our marketing community. So the program has been very much tailored for this community and for the business that we do at Westcon Comstore. We have selected and chosen specific marketing topics which we feel are most relevant for our business and for our marketing function. And this has been very much created with the collaboration of the marketing community. So there are a number of people in our marketing teams who've worked very hard to create the program and the content that you'll see within it. It is an online program. We've created a new dedicated digital learning platform, which actually uses the same technology as we're using today with Venue. And so it gives you another opportunity to experience this type of digital experience. And by doing so, we can introduce content in a very digestible way. So each month you'll have the opportunity to unlock new content. You can access it when and where you want. And we also then have the opportunity to be quite flexible in terms of how we introduce new content, how it becomes more relevant to the business as we evolve the program and as new priorities present themselves. And a good example of that is around our virtual events capabilities. And over the last few months, and we'll come back to this later on in the session, it's been very evident that virtual events has become much higher up the agenda for us. And we recognize that we need to invest in developing skills to really be able to deliver the capabilities that we feel we need as a business. So we're incorporating that into the Empower program. So overall, you know, we're aiming to improve the effectiveness of our marketing and to make sure that we have a more sustained marketing performance across the business. So we just take a little look about what Empower deliver, and many of you will have attended the launch sessions last week, and so this won't be new news to you, I hope. But just to recap, when you enter the Empower portal, and it will look very similar to what you can see on the screen there, you'll have the opportunity to enter different learning tracks, and there are 4 core learning tracks today. And this will take you from everything from the introduction to marketing at the business. You'll have the opportunity to recap about a company strategy, how marketing aligns and support that, and the value that we look to deliver as marketeers to our vendors and to our partners. As we then dip into digital marketing, we'll start off with looking at strategic campaign planning and then progress to looking at developing more robust customer insights and how mapping that to our partner journey, to content strategy, looking at inbound online marketing and marketing performance, really looking at how we can improve the effectiveness of our digital marketing performance. Digital platforms is all about the technology that we use within the business. So we'll start off looking at creative project briefing and our Right Digital project tool. And then in the future, we'll be looking at things like marketing automation, analytics, our web capabilities, and also starting to look at things like lead management as our CRM and marketing platforms converge. Marketing essentials, we've identified some core topics which we think are important for the business. So I've mentioned virtual events, that will be coming up very shortly. We'll also take a look at partner marketing, how we develop marketing services for our resellers, driving end user demand, and also looking at marketing operations and how we can make sure we manage the financial aspects of working with our vendors. So really broad range of topics there, but I think all of them are very relevant to marketing at Westcon ComStor, and that contextual relevance is really important to the program. There's a lot of learning there. You can, as I said, you can access it when and where you want, but we also want you to have a bit of fun as you go along. So you'll find there interactive elements, there's gamification through the program, opportunity to win prizes, and quite a nice incentive for those people who managed to work their way right through the program this year. There's a number of useful resources that you can also find there, from additional reading content through to templates and tools that hopefully will help you outside of the portal and the program itself. So in terms of next steps, as you know, we launched today. So very shortly after this session finishes, you should expect to see an email in your inbox, which will give you all the information that you need to register on the portal, set your profile, and start the journey. We've also set up a dedicated Microsoft Teams channel. So that's active now. You can find more information about the program. And if you did miss the launch meetings last week, the recording of that session is also within the Empower channel there. If any of you think you're missing the communications here, let me know and we'll make sure you get onboarded into the program. And if you have new colleagues that join over the coming weeks or months, then please let us know. And again, we will make sure they get onboarded into the program. Outside of that, nothing much more to say today, except I hope you enjoy the experience. Really want to know what your feedback is. So tell us what you think, whether it's about the platform itself and the digital experience, the learning content that you find within, or you have ideas for future content and you want to become involved in the program. Just please let us know. You can contact me directly. You can use the Empower email address that you can see there on screen, or you'll have plenty of opportunity to feedback within the portal itself. So I'm really excited to be launching today, and I hope you do enjoy it. Thank you. Okay, so
I'm back in the room.
There
we have some Q&A now, and we've got a question that's come in, Runa, which is actually very similar to a question we had yesterday, which was with the Empower training, would it be available and also appropriate for colleagues who are considering a career with Westcon ComStor Marketing? I guess that would apply to people who are already with the business, or indeed people that join us. Sure.
I think, fundamentally the answer is yes. We're being very open in terms of who can access the program. Obviously, it has been designed, it's for Westcon ComStor employees, that's number one, but it's open to all of our marketing teams, regardless of exactly what they do within the business. And I think if we do have people that want to move into the marketing function, then they absolutely should join the program. And hopefully there's something in it for everybody.
Sure. For our attendees today, you have the opportunity to ask questions using the comment window to the right-hand side of the screen as you see it. So please feel free to add your questions there. One of the other questions we had yesterday, Runa, was how will content be released? You talked about having a kind of monthly drop-in. So how's that going to work?
Yeah, so we already have a clear content roadmap for the next few months. And when you enter the portal, you will be able to access the content that has been unlocked. So in our first release or our first sprint, we have 6 modules, which will be available from today. You'll then be able to see the topics that will then, become unlocked each month, as I said, as that new content becomes available. With that, we also expect that we will be developing incremental content. And as I mentioned, that may be because something becomes a greater priority for us and we recognize the need to invest time and develop skills there, or if there's something that you think is really important to you as a marketeer and you want to incorporate that into the program, we have the flexibility and the agility to be able to do that over time.
Great. We had another question coming on the channel here, which is, will there be a way to identify the marketers who have completed the training or become specialists in certain areas? And I guess, with the broad spread of it, that's a very fair question.
Yeah, absolutely. So from an individual perspective, you will absolutely be able to see when you've completed trainings, and there are badges and trophies that you'll be awarded as you move along. There is a leaderboard within the platform itself, so you can see how you're faring against your colleagues. And at the end of the program, we will be issuing certificates to recognise people who have gone through the program. So yeah, absolutely, you'll be able to track what you've done or what your team members have done.
Great. Okay. We're not seeing any further questions coming through the channel, so perhaps we can move on to talk about another aspect of Venue as a platform, which we wanted to demonstrate to you today and give you the opportunity as delegates to give us some feedback about how you see the Empower training program. So you've now got the opportunity in Venue to help us build a word cloud interactively. You'll see again in the comments box to the right of your screen the chance to enter maybe a single word or a couple of simple words that describe your reactions or your thoughts about Empower as a program. And you'll also see, again, a feature of Venue, the opportunity to vote those words up and down. So we'll be able to see that word cloud being constructed interactively in real time. So let's move on to that and just see how that builds as you enter your words. Okay, we'll let that build out a little while longer, but it's really interesting to see some of the choice of words in there. Interestingly, on the EMEA call yesterday, the most highly rated or voted word was needed. So obviously we struck a chord there, and we think we've got it right in terms of hitting the need. But it's very interesting to see with the audience today that the word empowerment seems to be by far the most preferred reaction to what Runa was just talking about, which is, again, really encouraging. I think that's a key goal here, is to equip you with the skills and hopefully the motivation to go on and improve your understanding, your capabilities as a digital marketer, because it's a major plank of our strategy for the future. So I'm hoping we can deliver on that promise. I think it's an exciting and interesting aspect of what we're doing. But yeah, you actually got it right. If we can empower you to be better digital marketers, then we will have delivered on the key goal of the program. So thanks for your inputs. We'll share all this back out to the group afterwards. But again, you can see how Venue as a platform offers us these opportunities for greater interaction with our audience, and also generates additional content that we can use in the future as well. So thanks for your inputs. And Runa, thanks for the update on Empower. We'll return in a second to take a look at Venue. Before we do that, I'm just going to move on and announce the winner of our entry puzzle. And I'm pleased to announce quickest on the draw was Juanita Witayabun. So Juanita, thank you very much. There's no cash prize, unfortunately, for this one, but you get the kudos for being quickest on the draw in sorting out the Venue puzzle. So well done on that. Again, an example of the kind of interaction and gamification that we can offer through this virtual events platform. Now, as I said, we're going to come straight back to talk to Runa about Venue itself, both as a platform and as a program. There will be the opportunity as part of this session to give us some feedback on your thoughts and plans around virtual events. And we'll also capture some of that in a Q&A following the session as well. Again, using the same sort of technique we used just now for capturing questions. So with that, I'll hand over to Runa, who will talk us through the platform and the program. Back to you, Runa.
Thanks, Paul. So this is great. I am really pleased that we're here today using Venue, and you have all got a first-hand experience of the platform. It actually makes the job of explaining and evangelizing the platform a lot easier when you can feel and experience it for yourself. Before we talk about some of the work that the project team have been doing in terms of building out our proposition and the program to support Venue, I just wanted to take a step back and talk a little bit about why we are investing so much time and effort in this virtual events capability and why we see it as being so important. So, as is obvious, and I think clear to everybody on this call, the COVID pandemic really impacted not only our ability, but every organisation's ability to run in-person events. The combination of the workplace transformation, remote working, social distancing, not being able to travel, it really put a stop on any in-person event, and that really impacted our marketing activities. And we were in a position where we had to either cancel, postpone, or go virtual with the events that we'd already planned. And we'll hear later on with Rochelle an example of where we did pivot to a virtual event very successfully. As events are such a significant part of our go-to-market, there's something like 70% of our marketing spend actually goes towards events. We needed to find a solution to help support that. And in particular, as we started to realise some of the benefits from going virtual, being able to reach a broader audience, some of the cost savings, and actually the sort of engagement and interaction that you can have with your audience, with your customers, there are new opportunities when you take a digital first approach. And so we see with the Venue platform that we're using today, there's a massive opportunity. There's a real opportunity to be creative and innovative and to create a really compelling virtual events experience for our customers and for our people. And we believe that will help differentiate us from our competitors if we get it right. So I think there was a very pressing immediate need, which has come out from the pandemic, but we actually see a much longer term opportunity here, and making sure we approach this with the right focus has been really important. And so with that said, I'd like to just talk a little bit about the project that's been working on developing our capabilities and supporting Venue. Here you can see a number of people from within our marketing community. Rochelle, Jane, who are on the call today, joined a number of other people in the marketing team. And actually this team came together after the last marketing community event that we ran last quarter. And one of the questions that we asked through the survey, as Paul mentioned at the top of the meeting, was which initiative are you most interested in and would you like to become involved in? And virtual events was right up there. So we formed this project team, and we've been meeting on a regular basis to talk about the opportunity, our experiences, what we think is going to be important for the business, shaping that proposition, looking at the content and training support that we think we need, and actually then starting to try to pilot events so we can derive the right learnings to improve our capabilities. And so as we come to launch Venue as a proposition and an initiative to the broader business and to our vendors, which we will be doing from Q3, so from the beginning of September, we will be looking for this project team to be our real subject matter experts and to really try to drive the awareness, the adoption, and promote our capabilities within region. So you'll see there are a number of regional champions involved in the project. So we just move on, we can have a little bit of a closer look at some of the work that's been happening. So to start off, let's talk about the platform and the proposition itself. Venue as a platform is incredibly flexible. There is a huge amount it can do, and it can scale up to very large events. There's a number of interactive elements which you can configure to support your events, and you'll have experienced some of those on the call today. Actually, when we started to think about it, those really large exhibitions, really large events may happen on an infrequent basis in our business. We don't tend to run the very, very large events week in, week out. but we do run a lot of events that are more on a smaller scale, but equally have a requirement for interactivity and engagement. And so you can see there some of the typical events that we run as a business, anything from the vendor webinars that we would do in conjunction and in partnership with our vendors, partner roadshows, which typically probably would have been to a larger audience, an in-person event, maybe has some breakout rooms, could be multi-vendor, quite an interactive and diverse event. Solution design workshops, maybe typically run by our pre-sales community, and deep diving into the more technical aspects of the solution. And then we have things like partner roundtables and advisory councils, an executive audience where that two-way conversation is really important. A small boutique event, but to an executive audience, and the quality and the interaction that we can drive through those events is really important. So how we do that in a virtual environment, is critical. Vendor planning meetings. Yesterday we heard from Tony Riley, who is the director for Comstor in EMEA, and they ran a very successful event with Cisco over 3 days using Venue to really build out and pull together the plans for Cisco's new fiscal, which starts next month. And then we have all hands. So these are our internal events. You may have experienced the APAC all hands in the past, and I think David's planning to use Venue for the for future events. He did run an event in June in EMEA, again using Venue, which was again a very interesting experience and a learning experience for us. So the platform enables us to look at different event spaces, different levels of interactivity, which we can pull together depending on what the business goals and the outcomes that we want to drive through those events. So as I mentioned, we wanted to pilot Venue, we wanted to test it, we wanted to build out our learning. So we identified some events that we had already had planned, which we could see an opportunity to go virtual with. And you can see a number of them listed there. In South Africa, they've been very proactive. Going back into June, they ran a successful town hall event internally. As I just mentioned, we ran an EMEA all hands event to all of our EMEA staff and our North American staff, in fact. Mentioned the Cisco event, which was a really interesting event and tested a lot of those interactive elements. We're here today for our marketing community event. And again, recently, the South African team ran a partner event around Cisco small business. And they have one final event coming up in August as part of this pilot, and that's called Imagine Africa, and that is a multi-vendor partner event. And so we've derived a lot of learnings from these events, which we're pulling together, aggregating, and we'll be sharing back with you as we start to launch the program. One of the things we recognized was that in order to scale and in order to support some of these smaller events where we see a more standardized approach and a repeatable approach, we've been working with the Digital Clarity team to develop an event wizard builder. So you'll be able to go on and configure your own events very easily, and it will make the management and the support of those events much easier than it would be without the event wizard. So we'll talk more about that in the future. And of course, if you do have more complex events that you want to run, we can absolutely support that. As I mentioned, the platform is very, very capable, very flexible, and we can work with you on those bespoke events should they arise. So in terms of some of the content we've been developing, as I mentioned, those pilots events have given us real insight in terms of some of the best practices we think we want to share and apply to the management of virtual events. And so we've created a playbook which pulls together a lot of those insights into very actionable content. And so you'll be able to learn about best practices for planning your event, how to drive engagement effectively, thinking about the content that you use within a virtual event, making that dynamic and helping again to increase that engagement and interactivity with your audience. There may be presenters that need help with the preparation for this, for the event. They really need to be familiar with the technology that they're going to use. And so we've got some helpful tips that you can share with presenters. And that's particularly important, I think, when you've got third-party presenters who may not have used the platform before. And then one of the other points, which I think is really critical, is around how you use event data. The fact that the events are virtual they're digital, gives us access to a huge amount of data, and that can help us develop future events. It can help us with our content marketing. It can help us with lead generation, involving our sales teams in following up after the event. And so we've also incorporated some useful tips to help us do that. We're building out case studies. There's material in development to help us with sponsorship and getting investment from our vendors into virtual events. And we're also working on a couple of videos which help explain the proposition and building an event show reel as we start to get experience with real life events. And so we'll be sharing those shortly with you as we launch. So let's talk about training. This is really where our Empower programme and Venue collides. We recognise that to deliver best-in-class virtual events, we do need to develop some skill sets around doing that. And so we have 4 training modules coming up, which will talk about why virtual, the benefits of virtual, taking a close look at those best practices right across that virtual events management lifecycle, and then deep diving into the platform itself. So in the 3rd and 4th training module, you'll have first-hand access to experience and learn more about Venue as a platform and its capabilities, to look at that experience both as an audience, as a participant in the audience, but also looking at the presenter experience and production experience. And the 4th module is really designed for people within this community who want to be able to produce and manage their own virtual events. And we'll be providing some specific training with the Digital Clarity team on that. So you can expect to see the training from August the 17th. From that week, it will be available through Empower, and I would really encourage you all to take the training. I know from first-hand experience of preparing for this event, as well as being involved in some of the other pilot events, that preparation is critical. And virtual events require just as much effort and preparation and planning as in-person events do. And so, yes, I would encourage you to access the training once it's available. So some final points, and I just wanted to make sure we're clear on some of these points, because we did get some questions yesterday relating to when Venue will be available to work with our vendors and when you can start using the platform itself. And so our formal launch will start from Q3, so from the beginning of September onwards. We really would encourage you to do the training, and that will help you understand more about the platform and become more self-sufficient in actually being able to run your own events. So that, as I mentioned, will be available from the 17th of August. However, with that said, if you do have an opportunity now and you want to talk about an idea around a virtual event, then absolutely get in touch with me and we can talk about that. You've seen there, we've been running a number of pilot events, and we have the opportunity and the capability to be able to run those should you have a more pressing need. Once we launch, we will have an online request process in place. So you'll be able to register your opportunity. It will help you qualify the opportunity and make sure that we can align the right type of support to the type of event that you want to run. And then from a commercial perspective, we will be releasing some pricing which we can work with our vendors in relation to virtual events, which will be more or less fixed pricing for those standard events, and whether the vendor wants to run them as a one-off event or look at a repeat series. And then for those more complex or custom events, we'll be looking at more of a price on application and bespoke pricing. So training for marketing starts week commencing the 17th. The internal launch to the broader business will really kick off from Q3, and we'll be supporting that with an ongoing communications campaign internally and externally. Okay, so I think next we're going to move to our case study, and I'm really pleased that Rochelle is joining us today. Rochelle was faced with the challenge and the opportunity right at the beginning of the pandemic, and I think this was pre-Venue days. But I think the experience and the application in terms of the preparation and the results that Rochelle got were outstanding. And we thought it was a great opportunity to talk more to Rochelle and share with you her experience with the Imagine event. So welcome, Rochelle.
Hi.
Hey, Rochelle, how are you doing?
Good.
Great. Okay, Rochelle, so would you mind just talking us through, the situation you found yourself in and why you decided to go virtual with Imagine?
So Imagine is it's an event we hold every second year. It attracts just over 700 attendees. It's held in one city in New Zealand, and it's a huge lead generation for both Westcon and our vendors. And so it was scheduled for May. So beginning of March, we started seeing a number of industry events starting to being cancelled, and it was a lot of negative messaging. So when we were going through the due diligence of looking at cancelling Imagine, we turned around and thought, well, hang on a minute, we advocate and sell virtual webinar meeting products. So why don't we advocate and sort of walk the talk the walk, and go to market with a more positive messaging, saying we're not cancelling Imagine, we are going to reimagine Imagine and re-deliver it as a virtual event within an 8-week period. So we decided to stick with our original date for the event.
And then in terms of, you made the decision to go virtual. What solution did you end up landing on? What did you deliver to your customers?
So we went with WebEx Event Centre because it offered all the things we needed in terms of after event and post event surveys and post webinar surveys to give us that lead generation for our vendors. It also offered the broadcast, so everyone comes in on mute. It just offered a lot of functionality that we wanted to be able to deliver to vendors. We also developed a website, and we wanted to make that you only get one chance to make a first impression. And as Imagine is seen as a very prestige, and it's got a lot of good brand equity in the market, we had to make sure that the virtual experience was up there as well. And so we created a 3D animation. So when people clicked the registration, they went through a sort of a 3D auditorium, all branded Imagine, before they arrived at the registration page. And we got a lot of positive feedback around that. It created a great first impression. And then we developed giveaways and prizes to encourage the behaviour we needed in terms of guaranteed minimum attendance numbers, getting people to complete surveys, and that sort of thing.
And I was following the social media in the lead up to the event, which was really interesting. I thought you did a really great job there. Could you talk to us a little bit about that kind of communications build up to the event?
So we had one of our keynotes was John Key, the ex-Prime Minister of New Zealand. So we had him do a teaser for the event, which attracted a lot of impressions and a lot of comments and positive engagement. We also had a few speakers do the same thing. And we had a hashtag, WestconImagine 20 is our hashtag, and we could monitor that and encouraged all our teams to start using that. We found that our direct marketing had a bigger impact on the registrations than our external marketing.
And there seemed like there was a real buzz around it. Did you see the results? With the results that you were expecting? Could you talk a little bit about,
Yeah, so they exceeded all our expectations. Originally, we were targeting 500 attendees. We reached that registration number within the first week, and so we had to reset our targets. So we reset to 1,000, and we achieved that week out from the event, and we actually ended up with 1,300 registrations. On the day, we had 1,196 attendees, so it was a great attendance rate. The first session attracted around 965 attendees. Most sessions had about a 58% or more or higher attendance rate. And also the number of people who completed the post-event surveys. We had 3,800 surveys completed across the event in terms of lead generation. The post-event survey attracted 250. That was 5 times that of the physical event. And then we've also set a new industry benchmark because we were the first to market with this kind of a virtual event on this scale. And so we've set a benchmark, we've gained new business, and people are looking to us to help them develop and deliver similar events in terms of marketing as a service.
And in terms of some of the feedback that you got from vendors and partners, could you sort of elaborate a little bit on that?
So we had speakers say that the event from start to finish was very well organised. So we had a sponsorship document, and then we had logistics documents that explained exactly what was happening, what platform we were using, how it worked. Then we had guides and tips on how to present in a virtual space in terms of lighting, what you wear, how to position the camera, etc. We had several practice sessions, and then we had a full dress rehearsal the week prior to the event. And so feedback was really positive over how we'd organised the event from start to finish. And then a lot of the partners gave us great feedback, saying the keynotes were exceptional. The fact that we'd ensured there was short snippets, so each vendor webinar was only 20 minutes long. There were breaks in between. There was the rewards tagged on. So overall, it sort of there was a lot of positive feedback, both online and via the surveys. Yeah,
great. And I think, given the amount of time you had to prepare and organise the event, you did a fantastic job. Given that we've got people here today who may be thinking about planning their own virtual events, what lessons learned do you think you took from this experience, and what would you call out to people on this call today?
So we did call in expertise. So we brought in a consultancy that were experts in WebEx, and they played host behind the scenes to ensure that all the sessions ran very smoothly. People were on time, people knew what they were doing. It gave confidence to our vendors and presenters to have those people on board who knew what they were doing. And we had scheduled practice sessions, the dry run, which ironed out any kinks prior to the day. We made the event very simple to connect to. So we had a one-click PDF we created, and we sent that out the morning of the event, which I think drove some additional attendance. So one of the challenges we faced was that the event actually ended up being held on the first day of New Zealand going into alert level 2, where everybody was allowed to go back to their offices. So we were expecting dropout, and it didn't happen. So that was a really good result.
Great. And has this changed your feeling towards running virtual events? Is there things that you would do differently in the future?
So the next Imagine will definitely have a virtual element to it. Some of the feedback that we got from partners was it enabled them to carry on working while still attending sessions, and it also enabled a lot of their staff who couldn't normally attend Imagine got to experience Imagine. And also we had partners in the South Pacific, our island partners were able to attend as well. And it also let us bring in international speakers. So there were a huge benefits, and we've been asked to deliver a virtual element to the next physical event we do as well.
Great. So Rochelle, listen, really well done. It was a super event, and I think you got some great results, which were, hopefully justified all the efforts that you put into organising the event. So well done, and thanks so much for taking the time to join us today and talk to us about Imagine. So I think thanks, Rochelle. I think next up we're going to move to questions, and Paul's going to join us for the Q&A session.
Hi.
Hey, Paul.
Yeah, Rochelle, thanks again for the input today, and hope you'll stay with us for a few minutes and perhaps answer some questions from the group. I had one question actually relating to Imagine, which we didn't get to touch on in the presentation, which was, I noticed that you took the time and the attention to detail to send out delegate packs, physical packs in advance, as I understand it. And I thought that was a nice touch, but talk a little bit about why you did that and what was involved.
So we offered the first 500 attendees. So it was our way of guaranteeing a minimum of 500 attendees to our sponsors who are paying for the event. So those first 500 attendees either got a via B109 speakerphone or a Cisco headset that they could use on the day of the event. We also gave them pizza vouchers, and other vendors incorporated stress balls and bags of coffee. And so we sent those or created those out to the attendees prior to the event to make it a little bit more interactive and boost that excitement around the event. And it also gave us a lot of more social media attention as well.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's a really nice touch. Really good thinking. We've got some questions coming in on the channel through Venue, and you can see the audience here that we're using a different presentation mode now for the questions. In the first Q&A, we ran them as captions at the bottom of the screen, but here you can see what we call a post-it format. So we can see all the questions at once, and you can see how they're being voted for as well. So you can imagine using this not just for Q&A, but perhaps for voting for ideas in a workshop, that kind of thing. But anyway, let's deal with the questions, and we'll go to the most popular ones first. Great comment here. It's very cool. Just wondering, with the many elements available, is it really simple to manage at the host end? And Runa, you've had probably most experience, so do you want to address that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the answer is, if you've done your preparation properly and you're trained on the system, then yes, it's a simple, intuitive platform. But you do need to prepare. So for this event, for example, we started, I think, putting the agenda together probably about 4 weeks ago. And then actually through that, we're trying to think about what type of interactive elements we want to use and developing a production schedule. So I think as long as you do the preparation in the right way, then actually managing the event and you've done the training, then it's relatively straightforward.
Yeah, I think a follow-on question from that, which is not quite voted up as much, but I think it's relevant, is do we build these events ourselves, or is there a team that supports us in terms of development? And yeah, we've got experience of that. So again, perhaps you could address that.
Yeah, and I think again it will depend on the type of event, the level of complexity in the event. I mean, our goal is really for you to be able to be as self-sufficient as you want to be. The Digital Clarity team are on hand here to help with more complex events. But I mentioned this event wizard, which the vision and the goal for that really is for you to be able to create your own event templates and to customize within those templates in a very easy way. Outside of that, it's like I said, if you do need extra support, then there's a team on hand that can support you. But I think in a number of the events that we would want to run, we should be looking to do them ourselves. And with the right training and the support that we're developing, that's the goal.
Okay. Couple of technical questions here. Somebody wants to record events and share them. We know that is possible, but we're still, I'll take this question. So yes, you can record events, of course, for posterity and for sharing. We're still working with the Digital Clarity team on the most appropriate and secure way to archive and share those. But yes, absolutely, events can be recorded and shared. The other question, which is one that we will return to, I think, is there a test site to create and play with in Venue, I guess like a sandbox environment? Now, we haven't yet considered that, but it is something to think about. The point being, however, that events do tend to be, even fairly simple events, tend to be fairly customized in terms of their content and so on. But I think the idea that there would be something you could experience it with and get some hands-on experience is a good idea, and we will come back to look at that sometime in the future. And finally, sorry, Runa, go on.
Sorry, Paul, just on that note about being able to sort of create and play with Venue, that's absolutely what we want to try to create and deliver through the training. So I mentioned we've got 4 training modules. The third and fourth module are really about experiencing the platform and developing those production capabilities as well. So I think through that, you should be able to get that kind of hands-on experience that you're looking for.
Yeah. The other question I'll take is, can we use this for internal meetings and training sessions? Well, we already have, as you can see. So it's not limited purely to externally facing events, but you need to think very carefully about what you're trying to achieve with the event. Yeah, this is clearly not a replacement for WebEx or Teams. Yeah, but if you want to have an event which has strong visual impact, a strong degree of interactivity built into it, if you really need to have that kind of wow factor and make it feel more like a broadcast event than just a collaborative meeting, then absolutely the platform is there to be used. but do think very carefully about the intent and the objectives of your event before committing to use the platform. If it's a relatively informal internal team meeting, then I'd suggest that this is perhaps a sledgehammer to crack a nut, as they say. But for the right circumstances, absolutely. And we've had great results from using it internally for things like all hands and so on. One other question that's came up, Runa, is can I sell this to my resellers? Want to take that?
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's an interesting question and one that's come up before, and I think is probably evidence of the enthusiasm that we see for the platform, which is great. I think in the first instance, the intention is for us to use this in partnership with our vendors predominantly to run as our own events. And it may be that in the future, we can develop this into a solution that we could offer through resellers as part of our partner marketing approach. But I think initially, we would be looking to run our own events on Venue.
Yeah, and I think as a direction, it's interesting, but I wouldn't want to think of it just as a resale. I think we would want to be in the mix in terms of any partner marketing activity. So I could see us offering it as part of a structured partner marketing as a service offer, but as a straight resale, if that was the intent of your question, I'm not so sure about that. But certainly as part of a broader marketing as a service offer, I think it's got a role to play.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
There's a question here about the one sort of tactical aspects of running events. We've got prizes for attending events. Is there a way for us to monitor attendance on the event itself without having to create an external link? Some people register but don't attend. I think, if I understand correctly, are we able to track whether people attend or not, and what their behavior is in the course of the event, if I've understood the question correctly? Runa, do you want to tackle that?
Yeah, I mean, there's a huge amount of things that you can measure through the event. So looking at attendance rates, looking at the engagement rates, looking at questions people have asked specifically, the breadth of what you can measure, is considerable. So I think the short answer is yes. We will be sharing with you actually the sort of the range of metrics that you can get from Venue. And obviously then you can sort of pull that together into terms of the reporting that you need out from the event. But in terms of being able to monitor attendance at the event, then you can do that.
Yeah, and again, speaking from experience in the events we've run so far, we get pretty forensic analysis of the attendee behaviours almost immediately after the event, and we can do subsequent analysis based on that as well. So the detail of data is pretty strong, both immediately after the event and in terms of follow-up as well. Rochelle, we've got a question that's come in for you. In fact, it's been voted up to be quite a popular question, and it's not related to the platform specifically, but you spoke briefly about a loyalty program. So can you elaborate on that slightly?
So that goes more to driving specific behaviour around the event. So we wanted, of those attendees, we needed them to we wanted a minimum behaviour, so a minimum number of keynotes attended and webinars attended and surveys completed. And so we set a minimum, and once they completed that, they could claim rewards, but they got rewards for attending specific keynotes, webinars and surveys. So the more they attended, the more points they could rack up. And then they had a week to redeem those rewards.
And has that proved popular?
Yes, it did. I think we had 67% of attendees register on the platform, and of those, I think it was 80% had redemption. And we also incorporated social responsibility into that, so people had the option of making a donation to Mental Health Foundation of New Zealand as part of that. That's
a nice touch. I like that. Yeah. And again, the integration of things like incentives, prizes, loyalty schemes. Digital Clarity, our partner in developing this, have got a lot of experience working in some very large exhibition and event type environments where they've gleaned a huge amount of experience around those elements of the program. So we're looking at ways to incorporate some of those in future as well. Runa, a couple of things that I know you touched on, but it's probably worth repeating because there's interest here. The first question was, how much would it cost us to customize for our events? And again, I'm not suggesting we indicate clear, detailed figures at this stage, but there is a a commercial element to this, and the cost of putting on more bespoke events will be there. So can you just touch on the commercial model a little bit, and how we'll be explaining that more than the detail of it, but where and when we'll be explaining how to scope and price events?
So we will be sharing, as I mentioned, a sort of commercial model, and we'll be able to talk this through with the marketing community, I think probably later in August. But looking at having some fixed pricing for those standard events. So where we have pre-configured events, which typically are on some of the smaller events that we would run, where we've already built the event template, and it's minimal work to sort of start to customize them. And you can do that through the wizard. We would have some fixed pricing there. If you need to have additional elements thrown in or support, then we'd obviously need to look at that. But the goal is to have sort of fixed pricing. And I think there's 4 different templates that are available through the wizard. And from the commercial kind of model, we would look to be able to offer this with our vendors for a one-off event, or if a vendor decided that they wanted to do a repeat series of events, we'd have a preferential price model for that. But when we get to the more complex bespoke events where we really need to kind of spend more time in development work, then we would need to look at that pricing on application. So we would identify your needs and look at what needs to be done to support the event, and we would then come up with a price to support that. So it'll be a combination of sort of fixed pricing and then the bespoke pricing, depending on the level of complexity around the event. Yeah,
thanks, Runa. And I can just comment on that in that the pricing model, when we start to operate this at scale, even as a starting point, I think the price model is extremely competitive compared to other external options and very advantageous for us. And of course, the more we scale it and the more we establish degrees of reusability and learning around the platform, the more advantageous those economics get. So I would urge you to engage with it, because the more we do this, the better we will get at it, and the more in favor of the economics become. Yeah. And finally, Runa, I think this is probably the last question we've had registered here. And I know you mentioned it, but it's worth reminding people, just because I think there's interest here, is when can we start doing this?
Yeah. So, as I mentioned, we are looking to take the proposition out to the business and to our vendors from Q3 onwards. We think that gives us the opportunity to round off some of the things that we're still developing around the event wizard builder, complete training. So from Q3, really. However, as I said, if you have a pressing need or opportunity and you need to start thinking about planning and preparation for a virtual event now, then you can absolutely get in touch, and we'd be really happy to talk to you about that.
Great. And we've had a couple more questions as quickly came in. Is the platform mobile friendly? We have partners and end users who access our webinars via mobile devices. Runa?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. The experience on mobile is great, both for actually from a presentation perspective for the presenters, or indeed for the audience.
Yeah. So whether you come in through a browser or a mobile device, you're getting a very consistent experience. And the other thing I would say, and you may have noticed this yourself, but certainly my experience of working with the platform, the default quality of the audio and video is extremely high. And I think that, again, that's a major part of offering a good experience for delegates. Okay, I think as far as I can see, that probably concludes all of our questions coming in from the venue channel. So with that, we wanted to offer you the opportunity to register your intent with us and tell us what you're thinking about. So we now offer the chance for a live poll, which again will build interactively when we see the results. If you can enter your answer to this question in the comment box to the right of your screen, who is planning a virtual event in the next 6 months? Simple yes, no. So let's move on and see how that builds. We'll give you a few minutes more to provide your response. Looking encouraging so far.
100% hit rate so far.
Yeah, I think we've got a few more to come in.
Yep.
I'm hearing on the wire here that that's pretty much everybody that's voted that's around at the minute. So yeah, yes, 100%. So that's really encouraging. We are taking note of that. We're all coming back to check on what you're doing, and of course helping you with it as well. So that's a great response. Thank you. Let's move on to the next question. Thinking about the types of events that Runa touched on in her presentation and what we've discussed in the case study, what type of event are you most likely to run in the next 6 months? And this is a single choice from a multiple list here. So again, take a look at the poll to your right, give us your answer, and we'll see that build. Give a few more moments to get the whole set in. Okay, I think we're about all in. This is quite interesting compared to the EMEA responses yesterday. In case, unless there's a last-minute change of intent, we did expect to see vendor webinars to be very popular. That's clearly the kind of bread and butter activity that we often get involved in. Partner roadshows of the type that we've seen executed in New Zealand and also in South Africa this coming month as well would be expected. Interestingly, in the EMEA feedback yesterday, we saw a pretty equal split between the top 3 options. There was a balance between vendor webinars, partner roadshows, and interestingly, solution design workshops. The idea that we might be able to use some of the interactive capabilities in the Venue platform, particularly things like the whiteboard capability, to run slightly more detailed, more complex design type activities and ideation type workshops. That came across quite strongly. And there were a few votes for the remaining categories as well. But I think as people start to explore the capabilities of the platform, you'll realize that all of those options are perfectly feasible with the right planning and preparation, as Runa said. And indeed, we've already seen it used for, I guess 1, 2, 4 of those 6 options. And we know that there are plans afoot amongst other parts of the organization to address the others as well. So it's certainly applicable to all of them, but very interesting to see that there's a strong majority in favor of vendor webinars. And I guess the good news is those are typically somewhat simpler than the very large events and will be a great way to get your hands on and get some experience of working with the platform. So we look forward to working with you on those events in the near future. Okay, well, thanks very much for your inputs there. Rochelle, thank you so much for participating today. And congratulations on a really great event. Thank you. So I mentioned at the top of the call that we were using this as an opportunity for our first MarketStar Recognition Award in the APAC region. And I'm pleased to actually say that this is very topical and entirely consistent with the discussion that we've just had around virtual events. You see the amount of hard work and preparation that goes into making these very effective. And as Runa took pains to stress in her presentation, the fact that we're going virtual doesn't mean that you don't need to really prepare and rehearse in order to deliver a very, very effective event. And the planning in particular that goes into it and making it work for both the delegates, but also the sponsors and the participants is really critical. So on that basis, I'm really pleased to announce that the MarketStar Recognition Award for APAC for Q1 goes to our guest speaker today, Rochelle Carlisle. So Rochelle, congratulations. Thanks for delivering such a great event. We won't call you back on stage to give an acceptance speech, but there will be a material but not life-changing Amazon voucher on its way to you in recognition of your contribution, both for the event itself, of course, and for doing such a great job today. So thank you very much for that. Let's move on and close with a few comments about future calls. In the survey that we ran at the end of the first regional call, we talked about some of the future initiatives that we are working on that we wanted to both share with you, but also take your input on as well. And there are a few of them outlined here. We've got a Voice of the Customer initiative underway as part of our strategy. This is looking at how we will glean further intelligence from our customers about their behavior, their sentiment, their feelings about us as a business, their rate of satisfaction about our services. And we're putting some technology and some processes in place to assist with that. But we want to make sure that we're targeting that and adapting it for you in the region as well. We're doing further work around proposition development, both as a practice. How do we get better at defining value propositions that represent what we bring to the market over and above the vendor offer? And there's an amount of training and work being done around that we want to share with you and have you involved with. As you will no doubt know, we're undertaking significant investment and work around the digital transformation of our customers' experience, not just in relation to marketing, but in relation to our core business model around things like PartnerView, Blue Sky, and so on. And again, we want to engage you in a better understanding of how we as a marketing team can both help develop that and communicate it out to the marketplace. Our brand architecture requires us to be quite attentive and to work with you in region to understand what identities, what programs, what brands you want to carry forward to ensure that these are being done consistently and being well supported. But at the same time, we don't over proliferate the amount of brands and identities we're putting out to the marketplace and therefore dilute our overall brand position. So again, work to do there. Many of you are already engaged with our team on the Intelligent Demand Program, which is looking at the use of data and analytics to inform our marketing activity in terms of campaigns, making them more informed, as I said, and therefore more closely targeted and more likely of success. And again, we want to engage with you on that and understand your needs and your experiences. And finally, we're working closely with the HR team over time to look at employer brand and advocacy. What is it we can do as Westcon Comstore to develop a strong employer brand in the marketplace such that we can attract and retain talent in the future and develop the existing talent we have inside the business as well. So those are just examples of initiatives that we're undertaking that we want to understand your perspectives on and have you share your experiences with as well. We're going to provide you with the opportunity to do that now. There is a post-event survey which will appear on the screen. We really encourage you to respond to it while it's still fresh in your mind and you've seen the topics that we're talking about. But there'll also be a follow-on email. So you'll get a chance beyond the event to give us that feedback by means of responding to that email as well. When you do make your response, as well as providing some of the structured feedback around today's event, you'll have an opportunity just to give us some general comments on how you saw the community call today, how you experienced Venue as a platform, but also I'd like you to use that as a chance to tell us what you'd like to see from future calls. And in particular, if you have a project or an experience or a case study that you would like to share with the group as a presenter on a future call, we really would like to encourage that as well. So again, use that free text area in the survey to tell us not just what you'd like to see in future calls, but what you can provide us by means of insight and experience as well. And we look forward to hearing from you on that. With that, I'd like to thank Runa and Rochelle for their great contribution today. Really appreciated that. I'd like to thank you, our audience, for attending. We'll see you on the next community call next quarter. In the meantime, thank you all very much for the great work that you're putting in the region. It doesn't go unnoticed. Whenever I have executive conversations around the business, I'm told that there's a great degree of satisfaction and interest and excitement with what we are delivering as a marketing team worldwide. So I thank you for that. Have a great remainder of your working day. I look forward to speaking with you again, either individually or as a group, very soon. But the next big opportunity will be on our next community call next quarter around. Thank you. Have a great day.